Good morning, everyone. It's so exciting to see this number come up. We are going to give just a minute for everyone to join us, and then Sarah Lincoln is going to kick us off with a little introduction.
It looks like we're still rolling in.
We are, but we've got a lot. Melanie has a lot for us, so I think we should just go ahead and get started.
Let's do it. Hello and welcome to Thinking Outside the Box, supporting inclusion for preschoolers with IEPs, presented by Melanie Hertig of CalExi, a SIP partner in the statewide system of support. I'm Sarah Lincoln, SIP Program Support Specialist from El Dorado County, and I am thrilled to be your moderator for this breakout session. And I'm joined by my colleague, Heather Snipes. First, a few logistics. This session will be recorded and archived on the conference agenda page after the conference for 1 month. Closed captioning is available by clicking on the CC button on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The interpretation icon in the same area will provide access to Spanish translation. We will ensure the ASL interpreters are spotlighted along with the PowerPoint and presenter. Please ensure your volume is muted to avoid background distractions while presenters speak. We encourage you to engage with others in the chat, and when possible, keep your camera on so we can see your faces. And with that, Melanie, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Sarah, and thank you for joining us today as we look at ways many school districts have found success in providing accessible, inclusive instructional environments for their preschoolers with IEPs. My name is Melanie Hertig, and I am the co-executive director of the California Early Childhood Special Education Network. I started my career as a school psychologist working in the preschool setting, then as a pseudo principal for the preschool special education program in Riverside County, and later a special education and SELPA director with Irvine Unified School District. My position as the co-chair for the state SELPA Early Childhood Committee led to my involvement in launching CalExi in 2023. We still kind of feel like a baby project. A little bit more about our project. CalExi was funded by the California Department of Education. The network aims to strengthen knowledge, interagency collaboration, and the implementation of evidence-based practices across California. Its primary goals are to improve transitions from Part C to Part B, promote access to less restrictive environments, and enhance outcomes for our youngest learners. It may be helpful to share an overview of how CalExi supports are structured. If you're looking for ways to support your local special education preschool program related to LRE or in any other areas of need, our project is purposely designed to provide tailored support. Irvine Unified School District and the East San Gabriel Valley SELPA are the lead entities providing the project's leadership. Myself from Irvine and Dr. Scott Turner of East San Gabriel SELPA. The project has 3 program specialists, one supporting Northern California, Sarah Castile, one in the South, Laura Clark, and one who supports our exemplar leads, Carrie Rodriguez. We have 7 exemplar areas. Interagency collaboration is the relationship between regional centers and school districts. Assessment practices, preschool team leadership, preschool child find, parent outreach and support, data governance, and innovative and inclusive practices. CalExi has identified individuals from agencies across the state, including school districts, county offices of education, SELPAs, regional centers, and family resource empowerment centers who have exhibited exceptional work in each of these areas. As part of the CalExi network, these individuals provide training and support to practitioners in the field. When they have representatives from LEAs and county offices of education in 11 regions across the state. These are our geographical technical assistance facilitators. If you are curious who your representative is and from what district in your region, I encourage you to utilize our website for that information. This is our regional map, which identifies the 11 different regions across the state. In 24-25, Calexico began holding community of practice virtual meetings in each of these regions. Calexico will be pushing out our community of practice meeting schedule for 25-26, likely in August. This is a great opportunity for your preschool team leader, school psychologists, related service providers, and teachers to be able to collaborate with neighboring districts in your region to share ideas, successes, and challenges related to providing inclusive instructional settings for the preschool children, as well as discussions related to other exemplar areas. If you want to be added to your region's individual Calexico listserv, please connect with us on our website or at info@calexico.org. And lastly, as Sarah mentioned, Calexico is part of the statewide system of support. This graphic may be familiar to you and demonstrates how the California Department of Education is committed to supporting capacity building of administrators and practitioners in the field to positively impact outcomes for students. Calexico is one of the direct funded projects, along with SIP, SPP-TAP, and our Friends with the Desired Results Access project. Okay, here is the overview of the topics we will be addressing today. We're going to address empowering LRE and how it necessitates district support, the practical considerations and challenges, common LRE models, innovative approaches to LRE, and the essential planning that is needed. One thing that I've learned over the last few years, really honing in on inclusive preschool instructional models, is that your local area's program or model will be unique to your local area. There are so many variables that impact your district's approach to inclusion and LRE for special education preschoolers. Things like the infrastructure, the size of the district, building capacity, leadership support, access to state preschool or Head Start programs are all examples of some of the variables that impact your district's planning and, in the end, the program that you develop. There is not one singular model to follow. There's not even 2 or 3 to follow. What we see across the state as Calexico has engaged with districts who have inclusive models, again, is that they all are unique and have their own way of approaching inclusion and LRE. We will begin by reviewing recent developments in the state of California that have, over the past few years, led to increased investment and a concentrated focus on inclusion and the least restrictive environment practices for preschoolers with IEPs. Reviewing this background is important as it may provide helpful context when explaining to district leadership or staff part of the rationale behind significant program changes being considered at the local level. California Senate Bill 75, passed in 2019, focused on improving services for children with disabilities, particularly those transitioning from ID Part C, Early Start Regional Center services, to Part B, local education agencies. The bill directed the CDE and Department of Developmental Services to convene work groups to address barriers and ensure a seamless transition for 3-year-old children. The Part C to B work group was formed as a result of Senate Bill 75 and included participants from Regional Center, County Office of Ed, California Department of Education, resource centers, school districts, and state SELPA. One of the many important recommendations that was made was to increase appropriate services and inclusive settings for the preschool students with IEPs. To that end, one of California's key investments is the Inclusive Early Education Expansive Program, otherwise known as IEP grant. The purpose of this grant is to expand access to inclusive early care and education programs for children with disabilities, including those with severe disabilities. Funding was awarded to selected local education agencies to support adaptive and universally designed facility renovations, the acquisition of adaptive equipment, and professional development for staff. Another example of California's investments toward this work is the Special Education Early Intervention Preschool Grant, which provides funding to support LEAs in providing services and supports to preschool-age children from birth to 5 years who may be at risk of needing special education or who may benefit from additional support beyond what's required in their individual education programs. Now we are going to briefly touch on some of the practical considerations and challenges to developing an inclusive preschool program within your district. Again, the importance of including many of your district's departments cannot be understated. Identifying and agreeing to the overarching goal of inclusion and access to the least restrictive environment for the preschooler with an IEP is essential. I found that district leaders who aren't as familiar with our special education preschool programs often gain a new perspective when we explain that serving 3 and 4-year-olds with IEPs doesn't easily align with the typical access to general education settings seen in K through 12. Of course, the fiscal impact of significantly changing a special education preschool program is a consideration that will need to be addressed. As the district engages in the brainstorming of ideas, there are some options, such as a district providing their own community preschool program, creating a general education setting that can provide some revenue to the district. Collaboration with an existing state preschool program is another example of how facilities can possibly be shared and staff can be blended so that the cost of providing access to a lesser restrictive environment is not as substantial as your district CBO may think. Of course, in those initial meetings, you're going to want to address the status of the district's facilities and what space is available to either expand into vacant classrooms or consider more creative options in regards to classroom space. This is an example of why ensuring that all departments are aware of the district's intention to enhance their special education preschool is largely discussed. Other competing interests, such as identifying space for TK, district-operated daycare, or other district programs, need to be on the table and prioritized. If your district decides to move forward with blending a state preschool program, for example, bringing HR in to review contract language related to both classified and certificated staffing is essential. Staff working hours, breaks, job descriptions, collaboration time, time reserved for assessment and holding IEPs, etc., are all areas that should be addressed. Whether the district has a singular location or operates regional programs, working with transportation is also essential as new programming may impact routes. While districts may look to neighboring areas or even those across the state for examples of inclusive preschool models, CalExi has found through conversations with numerous districts, again, that each program is uniquely shaped by the needs and context of its community. There's no one-size-fits-all model for inclusion that can be simply replicated. A very common conversation that we have with districts that have moved forward with large changes within their preschool program tends to affirm and celebrate the support of their district's leadership. We will hear, for example, that the assistant superintendent of education or student services felt strongly about supporting our vision towards inclusion. District leadership plays a pivotal role in the success of inclusive preschool programs. When leaders such as assistant superintendents and superintendents actively support and advocate for inclusive practices, the needle moves. Special education preschool program teams sometimes feel that their department is unique and not always fully understood. And there are some very good reasons for that, which I had definitely experienced myself as a preschool school psychologist. Conversations with district leadership can begin as simply as inviting them to visit the preschool campus or observe a few programs. These visits often help leaders better understand the unique nature of special education preschool and spark meaningful dialogue about the importance of serving students with IEPs alongside their peers. Such efforts often require a flexible and creative mindset to implement effectively. Once momentum starts at the district level, include other district leaders, such as those that support facilities, transportation, fiscal, and human resources in the conversation. It is important for these leaders to be included as changes to the special education preschool program are likely to impact their departments in some way. We want to share a video that Calaxy has made that may help to set the stage, start a conversation, and possibly influence others while you are working with your district leadership. This video highlights Lincoln Unified School District and includes the voice of not only their special education director, but the voice of their superintendent. So give me just a sec here to transition out of that. Hang on, here we go.
Early childhood is a magical time. They're all learning how to be little humans, they're learning to interact with each other. They're learning how to regulate their bodies. What I really love about preschool is getting to know the families. It's like their first experience with special education. It can just be a lot.
We want to make sure that we attend to all the requirements that are provided under the IDEA, that as children are transitioning from Part C to Part B, that we're prepared to meet all the legal requirements that are part of such a transition, but also that we welcome families into a school district, which will be new for them, and provide opportunities for their child to be successful.
When looking at the importance for early childhood education programs and having inclusive opportunities for students, I think what's really important is to look at the evidence that suggests that those opportunities provide the greatest outcomes for students, that the research and longitudinal studies that demonstrate the greater outcomes and success of students when they have access to these kind of programs and options. And then how do we make sure we've got the resources available to provide a more rich opportunity for students when they're coming in and receiving their first pieces of education from a school district? Strong collaboration and partnership with your district leadership and upper management and your board of education is very important. Garnering board support to provide funding for an early childhood program, I really always try to tie it back into accomplishing what our vision and what our goals are and what the mission of the programs we're providing is set to do. I've found great success in working both with my assessment team, my providers and teachers that are doing all that hard work every day with the kids, and then also being able to then go and relay that kind of information in a format that makes sense to our district administration, our budget office, and our Board of Education that's making ultimate decisions for our school district.
Thomas works closely with our county SELPA. All the directors in our county SELPA meet regularly. They analyze data. He brings data to us whenever there's a consideration for a change. Data around incoming referrals or assessments, data around caseloads, data around current research and recommendations that he might make for us. Not every leader comes to this type of a role understanding special education or special education assessment and the way that we value the people who provide those services and the means that we use to collaborate with them to make sure that our outcomes for kids are strong and solid and research-based and current is very important.
He really knows how important the collaboration is in getting the most valid assessment.
We meet weekly and have conversations about all the students coming in and being referred, whether that's Part C to Part B referral from a regional center partner or SELPA, or it's a parent referral. We sit down and all of our specialists are there collaborating and talking about the referral and discussing the concerns of each one. So it's really a collective effort. Then that helps the team also create a very student-focused and student-centered individualized education program.
We all, as our team, have a lot of input and feel like we're shared leaders in that he respects that.
Having the right staff in the right spot, that's so vital. I think being able to identify individuals' strengths and what their passion is and their drive, and then aligning that to the work that we're doing as a team is so crucial. And doing a lot of that work, being able to, over the years, to shift and move and or restructure the way things are ran in order to best meet the needs of our kids. I think one of the things that really excites me the most about leadership is really being able to work with my staff and see what their areas of passion are and what they would like to accomplish that's in line with our district values and goals and mission, and really seeing them bring that to life and fruition. And then to see the outcomes and the benefits that has for our students and our families and community has just been so rewarding and keeps me wanting to come back and continue this work.
Escape out of here. Just give me a second to go back to our presentation. There we go. Oops, here we go. Okay. Lincoln Unified School District happens to be our exemplar area lead for team leadership and exemplifies how strong collaboration between the special education department and district leaders can provide positive outcomes for preschool students. This type of partnership will support meaningful conversations around significant program changes that will expand inclusive opportunities for our youngest learners. Now we're going to review the most common preschool models for inclusion and access to the least restrictive environment. For many districts, California State Preschool Program, if accessible within your district or within your county, may be the most logical program to coordinate with. CSPP programs are most commonly run by LEAs, however, are also operated by county offices of education and direct funded charter schools. Innovative thinking is especially valuable when exploring co-teaching or collaboration models where general and special education teachers work together to support students with IEPs. In these models, specialized academic instruction and related services are delivered as push-in supports within the general education setting classroom, rather than pulling students out to a separate setting as much as possible. However, there can be some misconceptions among staff, particularly the belief that students with IEPs can be pushed in to state preschool program for only part of the day or for specific activities. This limited approach to inclusion is not aligned with the requirements of state preschool programs, which mandate full enrollment and do not allow for drop-in participation. Additionally, this partial inclusion model would not positively impact the LEA's Indicator 6 data, as optimal outcomes are based on students receiving their services within the general education setting to the fullest extent possible. As a result of Assembly Bill 210 in July of 2022, goals were set for serving students with IEPs in the state preschool settings. Adjustment factors for children with IEPs were established with a goal of serving at least 10% of students with IEPs in the state preschool setting by July of 2024. What we are finding is that many districts have been able to exceed that 10% target by quite a few students. This change in the state preschool policy and practice alone has triggered enthusiastic collaboration between state preschool directors and the special education administrators who in the past may never have worked together or have had conversations about access to the LRE for students with IEPs. For some district staff, previous misunderstandings or misinterpretations of state licensing rules have been clarified, helping to dismantle perceived barriers to inclusion. The shifting of 4-year-olds to TK has also been an opportunity to open up seats for children with IEPs in state preschool classrooms. Supporting students with more complex disabilities should not be the hindrance for students having the opportunity to access state preschool. Here's where thinking outside of the box may come into play as you plan for the essential professional development that is needed to ensure that the state preschool teachers are prepared to support all students in their classrooms, and your educational specialists are prepared to design push-in support and collaborate with their general education counterparts. It's common to hear from state preschool staff that they're unsure how to best support students with IEPs. While the willingness is often there, feeling ill-equipped can lead to resistance or lack of confidence in implementing inclusive practices effectively. Districts have utilized funding awarded through grants such as the EAP grant to support training of both classified and certificated staff. Finding common opportunities for professional learning as well as some common time for collaboration ensures that both classified and certificated staff feel that they are on the same team and feel equally supported, informed, and motivated to achieve the common goal. The physical location of state preschool classes within a district is often one of the larger discussion items. When a district is considering a more comprehensive, inclusive model, changes to program locations or school sites, both for special education and the state program, may be considered and need to be part of the conversation. Flexibility and the willingness to make large-scale changes like program locations can be tough conversations to have, however, in the end, may be what's best for the students. The CSPP link included in the presentation that you all should have available to you is a list of state programs that may help your team identify a program in your area. And kind of lastly, many of the considerations that were shared regarding state preschool would apply equally to the federal Head Start program as well. And again, attached here is a comprehensive list of those programs and contact information that may be helpful. Okay, now the fun part, moving into innovative approaches to accessible LRE models. The most innovative approaches to accessible, least restrictive environments and inclusion are happening across the state, where districts have created their own community childcare preschool programs. Districts are finding that many parents in the community recognize that these are high-quality instructional environments for their children and offer a more comprehensive program than some childcare settings. Therefore, districts are finding much success with filling the seats. A benefit to these programs to the district is that they are revenue generating. The fees that are charged for these programs will not necessarily cover all of the expenditures for the classroom, however, will provide some revenue to offset the costs. Districts also find that welcoming community preschoolers helps families become familiar with the school district and begins a long-lasting relationship with staff. Educational specialists can be primary teachers in these classrooms and provide instruction to the community students as well. It is recommended that districts gather information about community childcare rates in their community and set a rate that is attractive to parents. It is also recommended that a district representative engage in direct communication with primary local childcare providers to explain the rationale behind opening the preschool program to community students. Another creative model, though located off of a district's campus, involves contracting with community childcare centers to reserve seats for preschool students. In this approach, all services for students with IEPs are delivered within the community childcare setting. This model can be particularly appealing for districts facing facility limitations. While thorough vetting of partner programs is essential, many community childcare centers offer high-quality educational experiences and receive strong positive feedback from families whose children have attended. This model would necessitate a contractual agreement between the center and the district. However, in many ways, can be a great cost-effective option for the district. Another great option to consider is community college child development centers. These programs typically provide high-quality, developmentally based programs and may be partially staffed by community college students who are enrolled in early childhood education programs through the college. Again, this would require agreements to be drafted, however, would provide the facility space, classroom and playground equipment, and other structural supports that may enable a district to provide a high-quality, inclusive setting. Districts may consider the approaches here in conjunction with accessing state preschool programs. Some districts, like my home-based Irvine Unified School District, they've taken this approach. Whether it's on one campus or a few different campuses, having state preschool and a paid program may truly optimize a district's ability to provide accessible general education settings for our preschoolers with IEPs. Hey, we want to share another video that captures Bonita Unified School District's journey and success in developing a community preschool for all program. Bonita is one of our exemplar team members of CalExy and a great resource for districts who are considering this model. So let me transition to that.
Creating a community of belonging is the first step in a great outcome for all students. We're providing this environment where children are learning from their friends, and friends are learning how to be open and empathetic and patient with a variety of differences.
Preschoolers are naturally very accepting of other people. Whatever their ability level is, preschoolers just go, that's how that person is.
If I had one wish about what other districts, teachers, admin, anybody who doesn't have a child who's disabled or with learning disabilities or behavior issues knew, is that kids, all kids, are just kids, right? Kids who yearn for belonging.
When you have an inclusion program, you're bringing in families from the school, families in the community who might not otherwise have interaction with some of those families of kids on IEPs. And it makes our preschool class more integrated into the school as a whole.
When we teach a goal in a naturalistic environment, that student is going to understand the function of that goal a lot better than if you're pulling them out in isolation. And not only will they understand the function of that goal better, but they will also enjoy learning as opposed to feeling like they are separate from the rest of the classroom.
One of the things that we've seen and witnessed here at Grace Miller is that by prioritizing early inclusion and early interventions, that we literally change the trajectory of our children's education.
My daughter has blossomed in this program. Like, her language has exploded. Before, she would never even talk to other children, and now she grabs their hands and runs around the playground with them. She has just had an amazing experience.
Using UDL practices, which is Universal Design for Learning, allows for so many different entry points and different ways of assessing kids. And when you use UDL practices, you don't have to spend the time learning so in depth about each child, right? Because if a kid needs visuals, they're already there. If a kid needs some kinesthetic work, it's already happening. It allows you to reach each child where they're at while having fun doing it.
It's really important to include the voices of our teachers and staff on what level of support they need for training. By doing so, we really develop our training around their needs, and because of it, we have a lot more buy-in and a lot more success.
Everybody in preschool can use a little speech. Everybody needs help with fine motor skills. We have lots of support because of our aides, and we also have a speech teacher who pushes in and works with us, and an occupational therapist who works with us. So we have all those extra supports, and really it benefits everybody.
Some of our students, they don't necessarily follow along with what the adult models are doing in the classroom, but when they see another student doing that, they start to do that as well. We have a Big Buddies program that one of our teachers started, where our second grade students actually go into the classroom and help out at recess time or help out in small groups. So we've seen it benefit both our students that are helping out and our students that are in the class.
So my son James was born with Down syndrome, hearing loss, and he's actually had a lot of medical issues. Not only has James benefited from this full inclusion experience, this entire community, the teachers at this school, the principals, the admin, even within the entire district, have learned from these inclusive practices. The other day, I walked James into school, and this fifth grader stopped us, and he had to put down his breakfast, which fifth graders putting down breakfast, I feel like is a big deal. And he said, hold on. And he said, how are you? He's like, I learned sign language, so I could talk to James.
One of the things that's really crucial for success in an inclusion classroom is training, because we know that the data says that when we do these practices with fidelity, they're successful.
Valuing continued ongoing professional development and training is really key for all of our staff members, all of our service providers.
Some of the best practices of inclusion is really making sure that our special education side is talking to our general education side and working together. Once everyone has that philosophy, then we see all our students as one, as opposed to this student is in isolation, or here's that SPED student.
What's really important is when you have administrators be supportive of what inclusive practices look like and how it benefits all learners, as well as the district leadership as a whole, really coming alongside the programs and teachers to help support inclusive practices and help support inclusion as a whole.
My advice for other districts that are looking to create their own model of inclusive learning would be finding people with the heart for the program. It just really takes exceptional individuals who have a passion for early intervention, for early education, and that are willing to work together to come up with schedules that work, with programs that work.
So districts often feel that there are barriers to starting an inclusion program. Maybe they don't already have a Head Start program in place, and so they're concerned about how to make that program successful. And so it's important to remember that you can be creative with this. You can find other ways to get funding. We created a fee-for-service program, and that offsets the cost of the additional staffing to support that larger class. So that's how we did it.
The thing that I wish that people knew about inclusive learning is that from a parent's perspective, don't be afraid. I was afraid that my daughter, who had special needs, would not do well. She would be made fun of. She would not fit in. And I came to find out that everyone was amazing. The teachers, the students, the school, the program directors, everyone in this program has made such a difference and has made her feel, and us as a family, so welcome.
Do it and don't give up. Talk to your administrators, talk to your leadership about what this could look like for your district, or what this could look like for your classrooms or your school sites, and then also how it benefits all kids as well as teachers too. When people come together with one purpose in mind and with one end goal, I think that beautiful things can absolutely happen.
love that. You get to see the little faces today, right? Come on, we want to escape. Escape. Exit, exit, stop. Okay, here we go. And I actually am probably in a little bit of trouble with my friend Susan Langer up in Sonoma, because I just failed to mention that was a collaborative video production with Benita Unified School District down here in Southern California and program up in Sonoma County. So Susan, if you're watching, I'm so sorry. But in any regards, you know, that video, clearly the staff, they're highlighting the thoughtful program planning that contributed to the development of their programs. And as you consider significant program changes, these are some of the key areas your planning team should discuss and carefully evaluate. Create a committee, which includes many voices in your district. That part's essential. Often there are great ideas shared and barriers broken down when we are able to collaborate with those with different perspectives and roles in the district. Setting realistic goals. Large change doesn't happen overnight. However, with a collective interest, change can happen in a reasonable amount of time. Again, input and holding empathy interviews with staff is so important. This ensures that all voices are heard and different perspectives represented. If a state preschool program or district-run community program is being considered, there are often misunderstandings about licensing or operating a district-run community preschool. Time should be taken to address these questions and ensure that staff are fully informed of the answers and options. Funding resources, grants should be sought. The EAP grant has enabled many districts across the state to be able to fund significant facility modifications, as well as provided fiscal resources for professional learning. I do not believe that it's been announced if there will be another round of the EAP grant. However, if your district is planning on making significant changes, I would suggest checking in with your SELPA director periodically and see if there have been any announcements regarding another, EAP grants availability, into the next years. We sure hope so. It's really had a strong impact on many districts, what they've been able to do. How the district will address professional learning and coaching for both certificated and classified staff members is important. Projects such as ours, SIP, and Open Access provide many virtual at no cost trainings throughout the year, which are easily accessible and support the practitioners serving preschoolers. Okay, the large whiteboards become your planning team's best friend. Working out schedules based on the vision of your program requires many different colored markers and erasers. Planning for IEP meetings, assessments, prep, and break times are tricky. However, with flexibility and team buy-in, you will figure it out. Teams should consider supportive classroom frameworks that embed instruction into natural classroom routines. Universal Design for Learning, of course, was mentioned in the video. Cal Bloom is a project that is also funded by the California Department of Education in collaboration with Desired Results Access Project. They provide an evidence-based framework of instructional practices in inclusive preschool classroom settings. Practice-based coaching supports teachers' ability to meet the needs of all their students in an inclusive setting. Another exceptional framework is the pyramid model, which provides a comprehensive framework of evidence-based practices that promote the social, emotional, and behavioral development of the preschoolers. It's a universal approach, which when implemented with fidelity, reduces the number of children who require more intensive interventions. As the team is developing schedules, priority should be taken for planning for push-in related services. Some programs find that offering an environmental model for services such as OT is a strategic way to meet the needs of all students. It does not require the time that an OT would need to provide small group services. Other districts have found really creative ways to uniquely provide adaptive PE in combination with group speech services, where both related service providers work together with the students, providing a very fun session of movement and language. Again, in order to meet the target set for indicator 6 data, students should, as much as possible, receive their services in the general education setting. During the planning time, teams should investigate any curriculum support or data tracking tools that may be needed by staff to support instruction and monitor progress. Some of the products that we commonly hear are being utilized in inclusive preschool settings are ones provided by TeachTown, Frog Street, Learning Genie, Benchmark Education. And then, of course, we always have the California Preschool Transitional Kindergarten Learning Foundations, the PTKLF. I cannot get that acronym in my head. It's not sticking for me, which provides the framework for early childhood educators to better understand typical preschool development and the tools to assess those developmental stages. We've got a few more here. Yeah, we got it. Okay. Teams are going to also need to consider clearly defining staff to student ratios, especially in blended funding models, for example, state preschool or Head Start, and determine how staff will be allocated and shared across programs. Every good co-teaching trainer will say that co-teaching partnerships are like a marriage. If your program vision includes co-teaching model or push-in collaboration model, ensure that your teacher partners not only have the time to collaborate, but have a shared vision and understanding of the relationship and how they both bring unique experiences that foster the growth and learning of all the children in their classroom. While teacher training is essential, it's equally important to share the program vision and provide targeted training for paraprofessionals. Ensuring they feel supported, understand their roles in the success of an inclusive program, and know who to go to with questions is critical for effective implementation. As a more accessible general education program becomes available, teams should be prepared for shifts and how referrals may reach the special education assessment team, including new pathways or sources not previously common. Working together is fundamentally better for students. However, new relationships with either state preschool programs, serving your own community students, or pushing services into community childcare centers may open up a new stream of referrals. Have a system in place for child find and how referrals will be addressed. Teams have shared that supporting community preschool programs have provided valuable opportunities for parent training, particularly for families the district may not have otherwise reached. Teaching parents of 3- and 4-year-old strategies to support their child's behavior has proven especially effective in preparing children for success in elementary school. Again, if considering a fee-based program, gathering community information will help determine what rate should be applied in your district. Working with the fiscal department will help the district determine if this is an option that may offset the cost of your inclusive program. The whiteboard's needed again for drafting the student schedule. Half-day programs, Friday student-free days, state preschool hour requirements, and transportation all come into play when identifying a schedule for the students that will work for your district. If your district operates an after-school daycare program, make sure that they are included in the conversation when developing schedules and program locations. Lastly, one of my favorite Irvine School District mantras is go slow to go fast. We do want to see inclusive opportunities for our preschool students. However, the time taken to plan and plan well goes a long way to avoid frustrated staff and ensure that your program meets the needs of your students. I think that we all would like to see that turn. We have never done that into yes, we can. And when we've talked with programs that have recently transitioned to an inclusive program, the staff is so enthusiastic and very proud of what they've accomplished. Another little reflection is be patient with that indicator 6 LRE data, because that data comes out and there's a whole lag year, calculation to it. Just don't lose hope, and, be patient with that progress, as that is a great thing to share of staff when you actually have that progress represented in those indicator reports. And celebrate all positive steps towards accessible programs. You know, sometimes these things happen in baby steps a little bit. We don't want 2 baby steps, but they may happen in, you know, kind of a progression and a long-term goal. But just celebrate, you know, just even having your district leadership coming on board, that's a celebration. If you have a state preschooler Head Start program, bringing those groups together to just even start working and having conversations about how they can work better together is a celebration as well. And just, I think our last slide, here's just the thank you to all of you for participating. Clearly, we've got about 100 people here that have their hearts with preschool, and it's the best place to work. Now, Calexy, this is ongoing support for you. This wasn't just one done session done. So please reach out to us. There's a lot of ways that we can support the work that you're doing in your district, either through the community of practice work that I've mentioned. We have a number of videos, 2 of which we shared with you today, that you can use in conversations with your teams or with district leadership. And our website also has recorded presentations and trainings that we've done, as well as some tangible resources, just documents that you can use in your practice related to inclusion, but also related to assessment practices, and working with regional centers and working with our families as well. And so that is what we have for you today. Thank you so much for joining us.